Hello, everybody, and welcome. We got welcome to the channel. We got TheoryForge tonight. Lock 6 times going to be leading the show, so have at it, Lock.
Well, that sounds like fun. I didn't know you were just going to throw me onto it. Should we do some introductions? Hello, everyone. My name is Luck. You may have seen me before on the internet. I do stuff about EverQuest Next and Landmark. It's a lot of fun. Let's do some more introductions. Gio, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Giovanni. I am a Twitch live streamer, mostly focused on Landmark, stream Monday through Friday. I am actually part Italian, part lobster, and I'm enjoying every Friday Theory Forge here. So thanks for coming by and look forward to this conversation.
So are we, Gio. It's exciting, isn't it? Next. Reese, do you wanna tell the lovely people who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, legendary neurotoxin. You'll hear that name. You'll see that name around. That's this guy doing a lot of streaming. Just be on my channel every now and then. You'll probably see me streaming.
You do lots of
Yeah.
different shows and stuff at the moment. You're doing a lot about landmark combat at the moment, aren't you? The
Yep.
daily show.
Yep. 2 hours every day dedicated to combat, or if there's nothing new to do with combat, build a new arena, or actually one day I made a weapon and put it on Player Studio. Yeah, that's fun.
Good times. I think I saw that on Twitter actually. That looked pretty cool. And the person who you're on his channel right now. Make sure you click the follow button if you haven't already. I just did. Can't believe I wasn't following you already. Zag, the Sims 4 hobo himself.
Yep, I'm Sog. Welcome to the channel. We got a thing we call the Colony here. Group of people hanging out. Recently been playing a lot of The Sims. Been involved with Landmark since I heard about it, and which was like after SOE Live last year. Started being a forum troll, and hopefully you guys can come hang out with Joe Hobo and The Sims sometime, as well as talking about Landmark.
Good times. Also, the person who's graced us with her presence this week with the the giant special guest logo overhead. That's Poro Sorceress. Would you like to introduce yourself to the lovely people, Poro?
Hi guys, so I'm Poro Sorceress, as a lot of you probably know. I do a little bit of streaming, but I'm in college right now. I'm finishing up my senior year, so it gets rough. And I do a little forum posting and a little Twitter stuff, and I don't know why anybody listens to me, but
Well, you got a lot of interesting things to say. Also, we've got in chat. I know they're lurking somewhere. I can't see them right now. We've got Phantom X from the site. There he is, Phantom X from EQ Nexus, and we've got Velux from EQ Hammer. A very pedigree selection of gentlemen in the chat who are going to be catching any questions you may have. If you have a question, put question in brackets. It doesn't have to be something factual. If it's just something that you think would be an interesting point of discussion to close out the show, please don't be shy. Get involved. That's how it works. They're nice guys. Please berate them incessantly. Don't give them an easy time. They deserve they deserve everything that you throw at them. I guess that's it for introductions, isn't it? Should we move on? Oh, I feel
Yeah, I think we're well introduced.
good times. I feel spent already. The the first topic of the day. Yeah, Zube has just noticed. We're talking about sex in EverQuest next. Talking first, we wanna kick off by talking about issues of gender identity, gender roles, things of this nature within the MMO fantasy genre that I assume we all have a passing interest in if we're here. So would anyone like to kick us off talking about that?
Well, I'm gonna hit up one specific little post that I made a little while back. I believe this was on EQ Nexus. It might have been on the Landmark forums, specifically about the idea of gender representation in and how characters are being referred to. That um, instead of a sorcerer and a sorceress being two separate things because one's male and one's female, just to specifically go with sorcerer for everybody. And if they're a female sorcerer, they're just a sorcerer because, there's not really any difference. It's still the same profession. My favorite way to kind of approach the subject is a female master of martial arts isn't a mistress of martial arts because that's sexy, and they're not a masteress because I sleep on a mattress. So it's that's why it's still, whether they're male or female, it's still referred to as master so and so, or at least in some circles of martial arts. I mean, some of them would go with miss, but whatever. They're still a master. They're not. You don't get a mistress degree. You get a master's degree.
I suppose there's some instances of I don't know, classic fantasy classes that wouldn't have a gendered noun attached to them anyway. Can anyone think of an example? I want to put someone on the spot. Gio just looked terrified as soon as I said that. Go for it, sir. What do you think?
To be honest with you, all I heard was something that I was thinking about in my head. So I have no idea what the question is, to be honest.
You're just thinking about sexy ninjas.
Yeah, pretty much.
You can be honest.
I was living in my head for a minute. Sorry.
That's quite all right. Poro, do you have anything that you'd like to say on this issue?
Well, I've actually talked about it with you before, Reese, and it kind of annoyed me, and I couldn't put my finger on why. And I think it's just because I like some of the gendered words. Some of them wouldn't make sense. Like, you couldn't really come up with a female word for, like, paladin or something. But then you could just leave them alone. But if I want to be a sorceress, like, why can't I be a sorceress if I like how that sounds?
Right.
But like everything else, it's a choice thing. I want to have the choices.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the question would be like, what hinders right now? What is it that hinders us from having that choice? Is it like the programming side of things that makes it too hard to like for the company to allow us to have that customization? Or
it's the programming side of things, and it is most certainly not too hard. I can say that. Poro can say that. We've both seen code. We've both seen what it's like to program stuff. It's not impossible, not by a long shot. It'd be a matter. Go ahead.
In what way does it? Where in the game is this being presented to you, and where and how is it affecting that? I want to get back to that. Like, is it the pronoun or the title that you're using? Because like in Sunless Sea, you pick out of a list of titles that you want people to address you, want NPCs to address you by at the beginning. Is it that, like in an NPC interaction? Is it, or are you talking about in the greater scheme of things, there's a problem or a concern with there being gender-specific nouns? I want to take it back a little bit because I don't completely understand why the nomenclature is important.
Well, I think we can talk about gendered nouns in terms of class names, but I know gendered pronouns can be a very hot topic for a lot of people in our community. I mean, for many of us, like we're in a situation where we can immediately identify very easily with protagonists of most games, whereas other people, perhaps someone who was very physically what we'd call typically male, but would rather be referred to with a feminine pronoun. Those people are out there. Is that the responsibility of a company like SOE to allow that option in the game? What do we think? Panel, go.
I definitely think that after having, I was initially talking about my first article, and Poro and I did talk about the subject, and she had a really good post on the subject. And definitely choice is a really good thing. It's, Landmark were these weird things in this weird planet, male, female, some other gender representation or whatever being completely gender neutral despite having, you know, one or the other body type. That's definitely things that the player should be able to choose. And in fact, I feel like players should be able to choose on the fly depending on whatever they're role playing or whatever they're doing in the game.
So just like on your character screen, have a drop-down menu for what pronoun you prefer to be addressed by, and be able to change it whenever you want.
That's what I was
Basically.
proposing in that forum post. I thought it was a good idea. And like Reese was saying, it wouldn't really be hard to do it, but I guess there's like a chain of decisions that has to go on where someone has to say like, oh, this is a good idea, and then someone else has to figure out like all the ways that that could hurt the company, and they have to do some serious like pondering over whether they're gonna do it. And, you know, it's not zero effort, even though it's not very hard, and everything has to be prioritized.
Do we think this is the type of thing, you know, in this day and age, it's 2014 after all, is this like, you know, is this a progressive thing that we think more companies should be striving towards this kind of inclusivity? Joe, you're being very quiet about this, and I know I know you have an opinion.
I mean, I guess for me, I'm very torn on a lot of it because I feel like I see so much from both sides. I see so many positives and not necessarily so many negatives, but you know, I see kind of the concept of like why maybe it isn't, you know, like going to be the top list or the top of their list for things that they want to do. So I guess the reason that I'm quiet is just because I still am very much, even with all the thinking that I've done about it, I still am very much like not sure how I feel, like what I think needs to happen or what I think the right thing would be. So that's kind of that's why, like, as you guys talk, I'm slowly letting it all sit in to kind of help gauge my ideas and my, you know, what I think. But I think it's a really tricky thing. And you know, when like you said, in 2014, we're more likely to be, you know, PC than and like try to include, like you said, include everybody. That and the thing that's really hard is like there always has to be. It seems like with everything, there always is going to be a standard or a status quo, and then it's always going to be pushed, and it's always going to be so like where, you know, is there an end? Is there an end to like inclusivity? Like at some point, do we just, like I said, maybe the best thing, like what you guys said actually, which would be the greatest solution, is just let us pick our own names. Let us do whatever we want, and then the only issue that they have to deal with is like you know, every dick class that, you know, the cum guzzler class that comes out. That's the only thing that you really have to be worried about. So,
Truth. Well, I guess that's an issue with names already. So perhaps that would be a positive step forward. And I guess, you know, thinking a step forward, if gender identity is one thing, then I suppose sexual identity is probably another step that I think, you know, there would be. I would hope or assume a minority, but you know, probably quite a vocal one, that if you started putting options for characters to be defined by non-traditional sexualities, I guess would be is that the politically correct way to put it? Please, someone in chat correct me if that's not right, but. Let's just say, how would we feel, right? How would we feel if some characters in the MMO that we played were gay? Or, you know, or transsexual or something like that?
There's a lot of characters I've seen in games that seem like they were written that way, but they just don't explicitly say it. Go for it.
Oh, all I was saying was, like, if a character was gay, how would you even know that they were gay? Like, how would it manifest in the game? Because it seems like most of the ways I can think of that it would happen, it would just be like normal stuff, except there's two dudes instead of a male and a female.
Mm-hmm. Brokeback Landmark?
Like if there was a little plate by someone's name that says gay, then that would be kind of weird.
I completely agree with that. I had a conversation with someone last night that I think that overly defining and creating some sort of important nomenclature for types of sexualities actually kind of forces people into those little boxes where it's really something more fluid, and it's really just it's as simple as personal preference from my perspective. I am not in a culturally non-standard group of any kind. I've I've lived my life in the what straight white middle class male thing forever, so I don't know what it feels like to be outside of that. But for me, I don't have an identity based on the fact that I prefer to be with women, and I don't see why a character in an NPC should have an identity for that as well. That's not what defines me. My desire to my choice in a mate to so far 99.5% of the time leaning towards women. Who knows? That could change tomorrow. I don't know. I spent a couple minutes with Locke, and
I was just about to say
my dick moved.
we had a lovely cuddle at SOE Live. I don't know what you're talking about.
But that's my point is that doesn't define me as a person, and I don't feel like Poro said, I don't want to walk up to an NPC and it says alignment like neutral, like chaotic neutral gay. I don't care if this Bob is chaotic neutral gay. I don't care who he wants to be messing around with in bed. I don't care if that changes from day to day. That's completely irrelevant to me. It doesn't change who you are.
So I'm gonna I'm gonna throw one out there. In Japanese culture, and I'm sure they're not the only culture that has this sort of thing going, more effeminate-looking men were actually kind of considered to be more of the kind of gentlemanly look, instead of looking like some rough, tough brute with a big gnarly beard and short hair and burping and farting and stuff. No, very, that's why if you'll see a lot of anime characters where the hero or the samurai character has a very effeminate kind of look to them, that definitely reflects the art style and culture of Japan, at least in the past. I'm not sure if that's still a something that's done traditionally with the art or anymore, or I guess there is in traditional if it's being made right now, huh?
I mean, we could look at Arcade as a great example of what you're talking about. There's the East and the West factions, right? And on the West faction, you have this, like you said, this kind of brutish, gigantic dude who looks like he bench presses small small houses. Small babies would actually be not that difficult. And then you have,
but lots of them.
Yeah, lots of small babies. Yes, made of iron. And on the other side, you have the Eastern characters are much smaller. They look much more nimble. They even have a much more even feminine type face. Like the difference between, let's say, me without a beard and like Locke with the manly beard. So it's like we see exactly what Neuro is talking about, just literally in a game that is that we're dealing with today. Coming out and being released. So it's definitely prevalent in our life as gamers.
I suppose it's kind of odd as well, isn't it? In a fantasy universe, how we do enforce our own kind of cultural signifiers on this stuff that is essentially it's all made up. Like we can say, in this particular culture of this species, this is what they quantify as masculine, or I know that in I forget the name of the race, but I know in Camelot Unchained coming up soon, there's a race where the female members are a lot more physically imposing than the males. So is it weird that isn't kind of mixed up with a little bit more in fantasy fiction? Would we like to see some more of that?
I think there is a little bit of that here and there, but it's just unfortunately in very small places. You don't really see that too much, and it's definitely not something where you'll see, an equal amount of that to the males being represented as the more physically dominant. So that's it is definitely something nice to see.
I think a big thing that we can ask for from game companies which is something that I think everybody wants, period, not just because of what we're talking, the implications of what we're talking about here, but the more character customization that we get, period, the better. And the better and the more in-depth and the more creative we can be and the more diverse we can be with these characters to kind of passively show their, whatever it is that they're passionate about, whether it's, a woman who's 6'2", who wants to like be jacked, or, a dude who's 5'2" and wants, only eats celery. I don't know. So character customization, I think, is big for us in what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. For Landmark, I actually kind of hope that they get to the point where we can change everything about the appearance of our character on the fly. Maybe not initially, but something that we can unlock all of those features over time. And that's specifically to enhance the role-playing aspect of the game. If you're doing a lot of role-playing and machinima and stuff with people, and you want to change the physical appearance of your character, that actually becomes an option rather than having to delete your character or have an alt account where you delete the character and make a new one, or make an alt account for every single character that you want to have in this story that you're playing or whatever. That would be kind of ridiculous. So I'm really hoping we'll have the ability to do that, and especially when they eventually get the system where we have the separate naming sort of thing, so we can have any character name and it's not actually like the permanent name.
By the way, I think we lost our host.
Yeah. We lost Locke, but that's a shame.
Fell into the void of his pondering sexuality.
All the frames are messed up.
Yeah, they are messed up. That is true.
It's all good. I think maybe he got DC'd or whatever. I'm sure he'll be back in a moment. So, I mean, Poro, like, we know that, I think that you have like a lot of cool things to say about this, or like I'm guessing that you would want. There's a lot of things that you are looking for to help solidify or to help just guide future game developers to kind of make this possible. So what suggestions do you have besides like letting everybody kind of choose their own? Do you have any new suggestions or different suggestions that you think would be helpful to creating this diversity inside of gaming?
Well, I'm going to partly answer your question and partly try to clear up some of what was going on before. But I think Locke is coming back, so.
I am coming back. I'm terribly sorry. I don't know what happened. My internet just decided to to just go away for a second. What did I miss?
Locke, we're going to have to do something where every time the show gets messed up because of something on your end, we have to take a drink. Go ahead and continue, Poro.
Okay, so before we were talking about how I'll paraphrase a little bit. In real life, a lot of these gender and sexual preference expressions are fluid. You don't need to wear a label on you that says chaotic, neutral, gay, because it doesn't really cover what is you, because everybody is different. So I don't want to frame the whole thing as, oh, we have to include all of these other different people even though they're in the minority. And these changes aren't really helping people who are in the majority because they already have the options that they want. It's more just about giving people more choices. So if you're a cisgender heterosexual person and you want to make whatever character you want to make for whatever reason that you want to make that character, then you can. And you're not picking like categories. You're not going to character creation and saying like, I want to be gay. But if there's a way for you to have like romantic things going on in your life, then maybe you can have homosexual relations. And then stuff with gender identity, we were talking about being able to pick your own pronouns. I don't think that's like too crazy to be able to do that. And the rest of it is just like, what choices do you have to represent yourself physically? Because that's, how people see you in the world. And then sometimes there's also like the little character sheet, and it'll say like your class and your name and that stuff and how much control you have over that. So we don't need to specify like, oh, this person fits in this box and this person fits in another box. You just give people more choices to do a broader range of things, and then you don't have to make sure that you have everything covered because you just give people the freedom and then they do whatever fits them the most.
That's one of the things I really liked about Mass Effect 3. You could get freaky with whoever you wanted with, male or female, no matter what character
Whenever
you
you
picked.
wanted.
You could get freaky with everybody. And I really appreciated that they gave that as a feature.
I think a big thing too is like, in MMOs that I played, I don't know what you guys play, but in MMOs that I played, I never really had the ability to quote unquote get freaky or even like build relationships. I mean, it was always everything was always so stale because of the lack of AI. But maybe now with Storybricks, that this is a great opportunity for a company like SOE to listen to things like we're talking about here, and kind of keep that in mind when they start, creating these different scenarios and personalities for all their mobs and NPCs.
Well, isn't NPC interaction then less important in an MMO than in a game like Mass Effect 3, or in a game like, I've been playing a lot of The Sims, where the game is really about interacting with an AI and entertaining yourself by doing it. In an MMO is about hanging out with other people. The AI is something else going on. You don't go into an MMO, my character really wants to be in a relationship with that NPC. Stop interrupting me. Stop interrupting me. That is my girlfriend. I don't care if you're a real person. This is my chick. Back off. Hey, fighting over an NPC with another player because you would rather be with an NPC. That's kind of weird.
I bet it had happened though.
That situation will happen.
I'm totally with you, but yeah, I'm totally with you that I think it should be about people interacting with each other, which is why I think this is an important discussion to have, because I think it's essentially a role playing game, and giving people the freedom.
Bye, Locke.
Sog, I blame you.
It's not Sog's fault either.
I love that frozen frame. That's perfect. We need to
screenshot it.
Well, I can screenshot that tomorrow, and it's going to be saved.
I mean, for me, what it sounds like I'm hearing is that, in a way, you guys, character representation has a lot to do with immersion, of like how you feel and that you're being represented in the game, and then how easily and how much you can relate to that character. And so, with that being said, that's why I think even in an MMO, it's not that it isn't about interacting with the NPCs. I still think it's just that we haven't had the technology put in place really for a lot of MMOs where it makes it feel immersive. It makes it feel like you're not talking to a robot, you're talking to a human. But once we get that AI, which is, like I said, I think that Storybricks is the first step towards that AI, or a step, a critical step. And now we're going to feel more immersed into the game and into the AI side of things, the computerized side of things, instead of the player versus player thing. So, I guess, there we go. So that's kind of like where I think that we can see progress based on what we're talking, or from what we're talking about here, based on those AIs, straight through immersion and straight through connection with your character. So.
Well, we're missing Locke.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things he was asking that we didn't really talk about that much was he was saying, like, do we have not we, because we don't work for these companies, but do game developers have a responsibility to represent more types of people in their games? And I guess we're really talking about MMOs where all kinds of people can make their own characters and have themselves represented in the games.
I think that having more options is awesome. I think that if you want if you want to make the best game that you can, that would be great. I could, you know, Moose says make one scene with and one without lot. Let me add another neuro cam.
So, one thing for me that I feel also really helps is really being able to represent all, kind of cultural nationalities when you've got human-based characters. And definitely if you've got humans as one of the races, at least having enough diversity that nobody really feels left out. That's definitely something that's, it's really important to make sure that nobody, once again, that nobody feels left out, that everybody feels like they're being represented, even if that's not the character they intend to play or the appearance they intend to go with, that at least it's an option available in case that's the way they like to play games, is that they have a character that represents themselves, that they, kind of play as an extension of themselves.
I kind of really disagree that in my, if I was a game developer, I would not want to head that direction. What I would want to head, which I actually have back, like when I first met Saad, we had a conversation like this about like in Landmark, we don't want to have this like, would rather actually eliminate the like race concept. I would rather it be like, not that it's necessarily easy or like even possible, but I would like to do everything I can to make it so that that really like you don't have to ever feel like you're looking for a certain race. You're just looking for something something more, something past the race, something past the like, oh, I want to be, or like either Oriental, or I want to be like have like an Indian look, or I want to have like an American look. I want it to be more like I just it doesn't really matter what nationality I am, because this is a fantasy world, and the entire concept like that of real life doesn't exist. Like the concepts of real life and that kind of represent, or that kind of culture just doesn't exist in the game.
If you are playing in Landmark, it's not that important. In Landmark, you should be able to be whatever you want and do whatever you want, and that's fine, but that has its problems too. If you are making a character to exist in Norath for EverQuest Next, and you want to be something that really just doesn't fit into the roleplay world, then, people aren't gonna want to hang out with you. that if you want to break the game, if you want to pretend that you're outside of the game and something different and special, it's not gonna work for you. A lot of games that you start off, you're playing, and like that newbie zone is about teaching you the things about the world that you need to know to actually be a roleplay character within the world. So in a game where the story is not just whatever we want to make up, but we can, it's designed to immerse you, to get you involved. Like ArcAge Head Start starts today, and it does a terrible job at this, where like your interactions with the NPCs at the beginning of the story is supposed to make you start to feel like one of the potential types of characters that they allow you to play as. And that's it's designed that way. It's supposed to work that way. And in that kind of case, if that's done well, it can provide a very valuable game experience for people without needing to open it up to, oh, you could be whatever you want and you could do whatever you want. That doesn't become important. In an open sandbox like Landmark, yeah, well, you should be able to be whatever you want. But when we talk about EQ Next, we talk about we talk about existing in Norath, and like Geo and Velix on the Viz Gaming channel have been doing a thing every week called Loregasm, where they're talking about the lore, and they're talking about what it means to exist in the world, and what that has to do with how you play. So trying to push it too far out of the bounds and too far away from that is disruptive to the storytelling and the scene setting that is done by the lore of the world and the lore of the stories.
That was actually one of the biggest problems for me when I was writing that forum post about how, oh, we should be able to do whatever we want. Because it does work for Landmark, pretty much. But I was thinking, like, if you're in another MMO, if you're in EverQuest Next, and the people who design the races feel like something conflicts with what they have decided defines this race, then should you be allowed to do it? And if there's, like, feminine dudes running around in a culture where everybody's, like, really masculine and wants to beat everybody up, then in some ways it makes sense because, like, maybe some people are strange, but in other ways it doesn't, and I don't know, like, how far would be too far that it makes the game not as immersive or that it disrupts, like, the flow of how this world is supposed to be.
I suppose everyone has a different kind of level of what is, interesting and different, and then what is, potentially going to break their vision of what the world should be.
Stop breaking my immersion lock. Stop it.
Just why? It's like you want me to get angry or something. But on that note, on that bombshell, we've been talking about this for a long time. And I think it's going to be time to move on. Anyone in chat, please do. If you have questions or comments, anything specific you'd like to be discussed, we'll have a Q&A at the end. Just put question in brackets, and one of our damn sexy mods will pick it up and chuck it over here for us. Till then, the next thing that I have on my list for us to talk about is about the guild cap limitation that just got revealed this week, and I guess that'd be a good launch pad to talk about how we would like to see player organization in Landmark and EverQuest Next. So the guild cap. Who remembers? Fingers on buzzers. Who remembers what the guild cap is?
250.
No one buzzed. You're all
I was
disqualified.
gonna buzz, and you guys talked too soon. I was gonna buzz.
Banana.
All right, since Sarg was going to buzz, he gets to go first. Sarg, 250. Is that enough?
I think I wrote a little bit of a post on this, and I'm gonna piss some people off with my answer, but I don't care. It's my honest opinion that in Landmark there are not enough active players for a guild of 250 people to be anything but a negative presence in the game. At that point, you're either in or you're out. There are not enough. It's too large of a percentage of the active player base that if you have 250 of the active Landmark players in your guild, it's like, do you want to be part of Landmark? Or do you just want to be one of the bitches on the side? It's bad. It is not building something awesome. It's bad and destroying everything. It is terrible for the game right now to have a guild of 250 people.
Do you think it's likely that there will be a guild of 250?
There already are. There already are guilds of 250 people. And
what do you think there's a solution to that as the game is now?
I think 250 is too high of a limit. I think the limit should be 50. I think it should be, but the problem comes later. The problem comes when you want to house like dead spots for your long lost friends that you want to be part of your guild, and I really want to. I really want you to. I want to keep that spot just in case Voidlust comes back to Landmark. He will be in my guild, and he will come back. By the way, I talk to him all the time. But that problem doesn't exist right now because guilds haven't been around long enough for that many people to have left after joining a guild. So if you have 250 active guild members in Landmark, you are doing a bad thing for the community, and you should have stopped this already.
Unless it's a community of 250 or more that came over to Landmark from another game, at which point they might start feeling limited because they already have this larger community, and it's not really hurting Landmark for this community that came over. In fact, it's hurting Landmark for them not to be able to get those extra 50 people in, even if they're only on like once a month. But I actually have a completely different opinion of it. For me, I think the fact that they did the alliance system rather than just allowing people to join as many guilds as they want is actually the wrong direction. I honestly think that people should really be able to join as many groups and guilds as they want. And honestly, I don't really care if they have a limit or not. I think that, as many people as are going to join, and it's up to the officers and the members to do all of the fat trimming and all of the management. 250, like I said on live feature end, is a very close to a very special number. 256 or 255, as you might also know it, which is, what happens, I think it's what, 2 to the 8th. So the reason why that's so special is because, like stats in Diablo and games like that, for example, that was where the highest stat was. And a lot of times in games and other things, they would just have 255 the cap for members just because they didn't want to throw an extra bit in there for the size of storage of guilds for whatever reason. So that's basically one of the things for me that I'm kind of disappointed about, is that they didn't allow us to be able to just join as many groups as we want to be able to, and let people just be able to hang out with whoever they want to without being limited in any way.
Part of my initial point was because that you can only join one, because it's an exclusive group. And sorry, I have to jump in here. Noodle Cat, there's a big difference between a community and a guild. Right now in Landmark, if you have an exclusive group in Landmark called a guild, it's a guild, and no matter whatever you call it, you can't call it something else, and then that magically makes it what it's not. It's an exclusive group. Right? You're in it or you're not, and you can't be in another one. Communities are open, and they let people come and go and intermingle.
Do you think you should be able to be in multiple guilds?
Yes, that's why I made a guild that just has me in it and didn't invite anybody, because it's stupid that in Landmark to have to choose which one guild that you join. It doesn't make sense for the game. It's ridiculous to me, and I didn't want to put that pressure on anybody. I didn't want to say, if you're with me, you're with me. You can't be with Locke.
So we have to make an alliance called Onesies for all guilds that are only one people, because nobody's joined group. So it'd just be right now just you and me, the Onesies, and then anybody else who has themselves as the guild.
See, I've kind of thought about this. I kind of hang out and chat with a few different people, and I've held off from joining a guild at all because I don't want to choose just one, and then almost like have to kind of say to everyone else, oh yeah, right, I can't be in your guild because this is the one that I've chosen. They go, oh, why did you choose that one? And at the moment, what reason do I have to choose one guild over another? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't do it? Wouldn't join?
Well, there's not much of an economy right now, so I think most of the reason has been sharing common goals with people, and also like just, wanting to be in the same guild as your friends and community members and stuff like that.
So, I mean, I suppose that brings up a good point to go along with what Sarg was saying. At the moment, there's not much a group of 250 can actively do in the game other than just kind of be this force, this exclusive club. But once the economy comes in, a group that size could have a real, could have a real impact on, on the direction that the economy goes. I mean, I know that Reese knows a lot more about this kind of thing than I do. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are definitely groups out there that their specific thing is being the one that, dominates the market or corners it one way or the other. I remember back in the old days of Ultima Online on the West Coast server, this is like old school, BBBC group was the first to have a castle because they were basically a travel agency that you paid them a few coins that would open a portal and get you from point A to point B, and they were just raking it in hand over fist. So for me, I would love to, be able to join them as a member of this travel agency and help be able to put the portals up. And of course, when I need to make a portal to get somewhere, I can just do that whenever, wherever. So the other thing though was that I was with an anti PK group or whatever, which I kind of had some fun with because my brother was actually in a more notorious PK group, and so I would cause shenanigans. I would be able to walk right through the middle of a bloodbath massacre and just be grabbing loot. And it's like, hey guys, my brother says hello. So, I was almost like technically a member of all of them at once. And I can't remember if that early on there was actually a unified guild system or if it was just a website that you signed up on and people that you are in regular communication with and a place that you have a key to the front door.
So I suppose the next logical step, Gio, I'm going to put you on the spot because you've been ever so quiet, and I'm worried about you. What is the ideal guild structure for a game like Landmark? What do you think would be the best way for players in Landmark to organize in that kind of structured way?
I think it largely comes down to a lot of the things that we've already been talking about today, and a lot of the different things that we believe in a lot of the different concepts that we want inside of the game. People should be able to do what they want to do. I don't think that we should be limiting. I don't think that we should be limiting anybody. But at the same time, we live in a world where we want to be able to do whatever we want, but we also want to live inside of a virtual world. And that virtual world, based on I guess how game development works, needs to have some parameters set. So the way I look at it is, what can we do to meet halfway? We need to define something in general, but at the same time need to make it so that all scenarios are possible, all like kind of basic scenarios are possible. And that's why I'm thinking that they did a pretty solid job. I mean, I don't know, and this is big for me. This is a big topic, and I spend a lot of time thinking about it. But I don't know that what they're doing now is anything other than trying to give us as much ability or choice as we can. Besides the fact that they limit the guilds to 250, but at the same time, I don't think that we have a scenario where, like Zog said, where it even matters for 250 people, because I don't even believe that there's anybody that can really even have 250 people. I have seen the numbers of people that play Landmark at one time, and it just doesn't feel like that makes sense. Like that's even a problem now.
There's one guild with more than 250 people already.
Okay, I mean that could be. That seems pretty ridiculous. I don't even know how that. I don't really know. Well, what I mean is I don't know how that. I don't see how that could be possible. And if it is possible, then that's unfortunate. I mean, this is, I guess, where we have to decide. Do we base an entire guild system around one community or one guild inside of the game, or do we kind of try to think of a bigger picture and see how it would accommodate all the different kinds of communities that would exist inside of the game?
You know what I always thought was kind of weird about guild systems in MMOs is you have these games that they're meant to be for all these people to play together, but then as soon as you join a guild, it's like the game puts you in this bucket, and it almost becomes a way to isolate yourself. There's benefits to kind of being in that, there's an elevated level of trust and that kind of thing, but I feel like you create this sort of series of island chains, and apart from maybe the leaders and officers going out of their way to reach out to other guild leaders, there's very little interaction and back and forth between them. It was one thing, even though Guild Wars 2 had a multi-guild system, people would freak out about it, but then ultimately it wouldn't really make much difference because there was no kind of bleeding between the different guilds. I mean, is there anything that we could learn from the rise of social networking, maybe? When it comes to those kind of social organizations.
Now, here's one other thing that hasn't come up with it probably isn't going to be a thing with Landmark at all, but EverQuest Next, the idea of the raid point system from WoW and other games transferring over to EverQuest Next, and the guild being the entity by which you do raids, earn raid points, and gain privilege to loot, and being able to, bid on access to loot when it drops and when it becomes available after defeating a boss.
Isn't that a third party solution to a broken mechanic though?
Maybe a little bit, and I'm not sure if it'll actually be a thing that even will apply with EverQuest Next, unless there's a rule where it's like, okay, everybody come in with empty inventories except your potions. We pool all the loot at the end and distribute it or whatever. I really don't think any group is going to try to do that.
I think my mind definitely went to the old DKP systems. The, like Sarg said, the third party stuff that went on. And I think, ultimately you could consider that to be a failure of design. If guilds are having to resort to out of game things to manage themselves within. I mean, are there any management tools that could be implemented that we haven't seen in many other MMOs, or any we can think of that work well for Landmark in that way?
I don't know what a guild in Landmark does, other than create a smaller chat box through which most of the communication goes through. I don't know how a guild in Landmark is a positive thing, other than, like, what it does is it cuts other people out of your chat. That's what it does. Right now, that is the only thing that being in a guild in Landmark does.
You forget the label.
Yeah, that tag.
Okay, you get a tag, and you cut certain people out of your chat. And is guild chat cross-server? So that might be a benefit. So you get cross-server chat with people that you choose. So
what do you think would make it positive?
I think that there needs to be the problem is that everything was broken around it. That this was implemented before a solution to world chat and before a solution to social interaction was ever implemented in the game. So joining a guild and limiting your chat and setting up a separate window and picking small groups of people that you were communicating with was the way that you fixed your chat window. It wasn't the chat system and the community and the way of interacting, especially with the vast distances between people, even though you can instantly teleport to your friends, there just aren't people around. You don't randomly encounter that many people in the game. So there was never a good system to begin with.
I have to say, for all my mouth and talking about socializing and community, when I played Arcade, like, one of the first things I did was just get rid of global chat. Like, straight, I just couldn't take it at all after about 5 minutes. Oh my god, absolutely horrific.
I just made Chuck Norris jokes and like anal stone of bound hereafter stone, god. And I just recreated Baron's chat on my server.
I can't tell you how many Thunder Furies I linked into that chat. Well, here's the thing that's really difficult, and this is why this conversation it's hard for me to give input, because I'm so confused on a lot of like core things with this conversation. Landmark, to me, I can't see it as I can't see it because I feel like it's what it is, as more than a tool set, as it stands right now, as a tool set to for SOE to take what they're building in Landmark and put it into other MMOs. And then of course down the line, I think it could definitely be something way bigger. But right now it's not. So I think that we need to first establish and understand, like we said, what is a guild? What does it mean? Why do they exist? What's the functionality? Then once we have that, how does that transfer into what SOE wants for EverQuest Next? And for the MMOs where guilds are going to be much more useful and actually be something that I feel like in a competitive scenario, you want guilds. So I can almost guarantee that EverQuest Next is going to have competition. So with all these things being said, I just think that they put it in. This is my thought. I think they put it in because they need to test the guild functionality. We've been knowing that they're using Landmark to test functionality. So, and I mean, that's the way I look at it. It's not like guilds are there and they're testing it. But here's the counter to that coin, which is the other side of the coin is that we want to play Landmark and we want it to be a game. I mean, every day I log in, into Landmark and I play and I try to find some way to make it interesting and some way to make it fun, even though it's just this very very bare game right now. It's like and so first we have to pick all of those concepts apart, and I think really understand those concepts before we can even talk about the future or what guilds are as we stand today inside of Landmark.
Yeah. Poro, why don't you talk for a little bit here?
Oh, I wonder why this is happening. Okay, so I want to ask Sally something. Because it seems like, alright, you were saying that the guilds now are serving the purpose of fixing your chat window. It's making it so that you can talk to the people that you want, and it's a solution to our social problems where we don't want to feel like we're playing the game alone. At the same time, you don't want to have these enormous guilds where you're either in or you're not. So do you think it would be cool to have maybe a guild is a more specific type of thing? They can have guild claims and other things that I don't think we necessarily know all of the things that a guild is going to be able to do together because we haven't worked out all this economy stuff yet. But then having that and then also another type of structure you could create that would have a higher cap and be less limited, but it wouldn't have in-world resources. Because it seems like people are creating these communities and they have a lot more than 250 people and they want to be able to communicate and network and stuff like that, but you wouldn't want to have 250 people building on a claim. So maybe you could create each type of structure and they would be different and serve different purposes.
I'm very much for that kind of thinking. That I think I would like to see guilds or whatever kind of groups of 8 or 10 people that work on projects together all the time, and then when they need somebody else who's a specialist, as somebody left, they actively market to fill that role. I would like to see small groups of people that really do things together, and then larger organizations like the alliance structure and everything to tie that together. And then I would even like there to be, I think that some competition would be good between them in certain ways, and having different kinds of events. I think that just right now, I feel like the guild system was thrown into a broken situation, and because of that, the role that it's filling is not the intended role, and that's why they have to go back and put a limit on it. But it's not going to the root cause of the problem that there wasn't. I am not Kremjack. I am not arguing about what to call it. Really, that I think that's. I'm sorry if I miscommunicated there. That's not my intention. But I want to send this back to Poro and try to push this towards EQ Next and say, in EQ Next, where what we saw in the content of EQ Next and the Storybricks panel, it feels to me like a very personal experience as you move around and follow your row song, and you can go do what you want. What do you see a guild in EQ Next being, and what would you like it to be? Like, do you want to be in a guild that tells you when you're in the Dryad and Dark Elf area, you have to pick the Dryads? Or what? How is that going to work? What do you think about that, Poro?
That's kind of hard, Sog. Because I can see both sides of it. Like, I want to make certain choices because my character is a certain person, not to mention maybe I have multiple characters that all have different personalities and they all want to do different things. And then if I join a guild, maybe they all want to work toward a specific purpose in life and go down a certain road, and I don't want to do that. So I predict that most guilds are not really going to do things like that, because there's going to be other stuff that you can work on together, and I think people are going to realize that if they try to force people to do certain things in the world, it's going to get weird. Unless a particular path is really popular or you make it optional. But I can't really say like what role they're gonna fill in EQN because I feel like there's still a fair amount of stuff that we don't know. And I actually, in the MMOs I've played, have not been very into guilds myself. So
I've got one last thing that I kind of want to say on the subject. Back when I was playing World of Warcraft, I had two groups that I mostly ran with, my PvP group and my raiding group. Now, I couldn't be with both of them, unfortunately. They were two separate guilds. So that's kind of a conflict that I wasn't able to resolve. I couldn't be a member of both groups at the same time, so I couldn't join, exclusive things with both of them because I either had to be in the one that I've been an officer and had all my raid points in, or be in the one that does PvP and maybe raid with them once or twice every now and then. But I couldn't be in both, and that it pretty much was like kind of secondarily the other reason why I stopped playing the game. Not the primary reason, but definitely was something that was irking me the entire time.
I think overall it sounds like a lot of these issues come from the fact that guilds are like this really old thing that was implemented because designers were like, well, we need to let players organize, and then it's just been kind of left, and it's never really changed over the whole time. The game's changed dramatically, but this one system seems to have kind of been left by the wayside. And I think on that note we're gonna move into the Q&A portion of the show tonight. Thank you to everyone who's submitted questions already. If you'd like to submit a question or a topic, please just write question in brackets in the chat. One of our glamorous assistants will pop it in there for us so we can have a chat about it. Panel, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Are you feeling warmed up and ready to go? Let's go. Kremchek has a question for us. It's about EverQuest Next. He's wondering, should cumulative PvP effects trigger PvE events in EverQuest Next? He thinks it sounds possible with story bricks. What do we think, guys?
That could be fun, but I'm not 100% sure how that would actually be able to get prompted other than if a lot of PvP is going on in a specific area that, maybe some greedy goblins come through and is like, man, we're going to build ourselves an arena here. You see, we're going to profit off of all of this.
if I ever make a game with goblins, you're doing the voice.
Awesome.
I suppose if the PvP is happening in a particular area for similar reasons than we heard about in the Storybricks panel about competition over resources and such, if people are fighting in an area for a reason, and one side starts to gain a particular advantage, I'd imagine that it would just happen, wouldn't it? Am I understanding Storybricks right?
I feel like if PvP is going to be completely central to the experience, in that it would be nerve-wracking for me to be in an area like they use the Dryad and Dark Elf thing. If I am helping the Dryads and 5 people go and they're helping the Dark Elves and they're right in front of me, if they are right in front of me and they're helping the Dark Elves, and I am just backing up and backing up and backing up, and they're just pushing NPCs towards me, but I could potentially pick them off one at a time. I want to pick them off one at a time. I don't want to have to run around and try to do things faster than the other people. No, it is a direct conflict, and I want a direct solution. So I feel like PvP and PvE aren't really the separation and the binary opposition of the two in a Storybricks environment doesn't work, because it's about progressing the story of a world. And if people are choosing a side in a specific region where they're progressing a story away from where you would like it, you should be able to directly interfere with that. That's not griefing. That's not forcing something undesirable on someone. It's not a static world. You're not walking through someone else's story. We're making the story, and there's going to be opposition, and there needs to be a way to solve it. and PvP could be one of those ways that I think it's essential. It's essential to the whole picture.
Yes, actually, we talked about this also on Live Feature Rant, and my answer is basically, if I'm defending the Dryads and I see 5 Dark Elves attacking a Dryad, I want to be able to attack those Dark Elves. If I can't, something's horribly wrong because I'm clearly defending the Dryads and I can't do that for some reason. So that's definitely something that we should be able to do is, when somebody's attacking somebody we're trying to defend because, we're on factional, good terms with them, we should be able to help defend them. Poro, did you have any thoughts on the subject?
Yes. Okay. So I will just say that if you did this and alright, so if you have certain PvE events that are only triggered by PvP occurring, first of all, it's going to make people mad because PvP always makes people mad. But I think it would be really cool at the same time if you do have this very strict binary separation where here's where you do PvP and here's where you do PvE, and they don't mix, except sometimes PvP stuff can cause PvE things to happen. That would be kind of weird. So I think it would only really make sense for that to happen if they were more intertwined. And I would really like to see basically freedom in America and bald eagles and being able to attack people that are doing things I don't like, because I can attack their friends that are NPCs. Why can't I attack them if they're clearly doing bad things?
Well, I had a conversation once with a gentleman who told me that if anyone attacked him in an MMO while he was playing an MMO, if anyone attacked him, in any kind of context, then that attack should count as criminal theft. In real life, should count as criminal theft against the person who attacked him because they are stealing his leisure time that he paid for and rightfully deserves. What do you think would be an appropriate argument to convince someone with that
There's
mindset?
nothing in the terms of service that allows you to have protection from PvP if you choose to be in an area where PvP is valid. So you've got no argument. You're gonna take it up with them because you're playing their game. It's gonna go to third-party arbitration. You're gonna lose third-party arbitration because that's why you do third-party arbitration. You're gonna be wasting your time and money and look like an ass. There's gonna be an article about you on VentureBeat and some other websites, and you're just gonna be a fool to the game industry, rather.
Well, there are plenty of other people who, they won't go to that extreme, but they will say that unless they explicitly give consent to engage in PvP, then no one should be allowed to attack them, including, I can't remember what the exact logic was, but basically they should be allowed to go into a PvP area, but no one should be allowed to attack them because going into a PvP area doesn't imply consent to PvP. This is what I deal with every day, people. Come on.
I understand not wanting to PvP, but there's always Club Penguin. You don't have to play a game where the PvP is so important to the overall experience.
But then, sorry, Gio.
That's okay. I mean, that's a really important thing to talk about, and I feel like it's becoming lost inside of discussion of gaming today. It's like, hey, remember the fact that you don't have to play this game. There's a lot of other games that if you don't like PvP, then don't play a game that includes PvP. And it's ridiculous. It kind of drives me crazy that it even is something that we have to talk about. It's just the concept of freedom. If you want to, somebody should be able to make a game the way they want it if they're a game development company. And if you don't like it, you should have the right to say, I want to play it or not play it. But to just bitch about it, it's just a negative way to live. So
yeah,
I can't walk around with my balls out in Landmark, so they're hindering my ability to enjoy the game.
No. There's
the majority
value.
of MMO players. The majority of MMO players consider themselves to be PvE players. if you ask, if you take a survey of, even the people who occasionally like jump into a battleground or something or an arena with friends just to check it out, they would consider themselves PvE players. So would it be better for a company designing a game to take PvP out entirely, and we'll have an MMORPG that doesn't have any kind of direct player competition? Wouldn't that be better for everyone if the studio could devote more resources to its PvE content?
I think that we're talking about something that the content is so different and the system is so different that I imagine, like, when they talk about the Rose song, I imagine it's going to be a lot like you log into PlanetSide and you pick where you want to join the battle. It's not you're not going into play EverQuest Next if you want to be doing all of the quests and leveling to max level and following through. And the problem that the PvE players in that specific genre, that EverQuest Next is not that much of a part of. It's really only a part of because it's called EverQuest Next and because it has the lore of Norath. The mechanical intersection of the game with the rest of the genre that we're talking about doesn't give enough to make some of these arguments valid. I can completely understand in World of Warcraft you could have a lot of fun making a character, playing on your own, and leveling up to 90 or whatever the max level is right now, and enjoying the world, and getting really pissed if somebody showed up and just ganked you. In EverQuest Next, it's gonna be like looking for flashpoints. Right, you open up. This is where something's going on. Your Rose song is telling you, you've met these factions, you know what's going on. There is something going on where you could go help the fight. Whether it's a resource gathering or it's a big battle, and you're going to be able to choose whether you go to a fairly safe area where you're just doing resource gathering or not. But it's not going to be that kind of experience where you're killing someone is not griefing. Killing someone is part of the game.
Right.
You can't grief someone in PlanetSide. Somebody put in chat that SOE is not going to make a game where they force people into PvP. SOE recently only makes games that are PvP.
Yeah.
H1Z1 is going to be a permadeath game. No. They want PvP. They want they want action. There will be PvE servers, supposedly, and I hope that works for people, but it doesn't make sense with the system that we've been exposed to so far in my mind.
Right. So we've got a lot of questions, and we've been kind of talking about that one for a while. Any absolutely cannot move on last thoughts? Otherwise, we should probably move on. Anybody?
I'm still confused what the difference between being ganked and just being killed or losing is. Is being ganked
there's no difference.
Just a way of saying that you lost?
Yeah, there's no difference.
You didn't bring enough friends with you, so
you got jumped. Yeah,
you were alone and you died. I don't see that as meaning any more.
All right. Luck, if you will, please.
Good times. Where are we going? Velux has asked a question, so I best I gotta ask it. It's directly to Sarg. What is there to do in Landmark other than build and PvP?
What do you want there to do in Landmark? People are doing RP events every day. This is the problem. The problem isn't that there aren't things to do. The problem is it's difficult to connect with people in organized ways to do them. If you want to do something in Landmark, then do it. This was the whole thing, like when I was talking about Layspring. That was the whole plan of it. That let's find things that we want to do. We had an idea that we wanted to build a theater and actually perform plays in the game for fun. If you want to do something in Landmark, do it. If you are feeling constrained by the mechanics of the game in Landmark, just take a minute, take a deep breath, and think, what would I really like to do? How can I make that happen? And then there are going to be things that get in your way, and it's not going to be the fact that your toolbar only says build and slash.
I think that's an excellent answer to that question. We have another direct question from Tanlen to Geo. How many people doing PvP does it take to crash the game?
I mean, that's I kind of answered them in chat, but it's just that we're at a point right now where I actually just have to stop playing Landmark largely because I just could no longer PvP and move past my skill level because I couldn't break it down into a quicker pace because I'm just having terrible bug issues. What I think is a memory leak, really, and it's causing some terrible. Just I can't play the game really. It's not possible. So when it comes to PvP, like to crash, just literally crash the server, I don't think we've ever what did you say, to crash your?
I've seen a region crash with as small as 4 in an arena.
Okay. Well, I mean, I haven't seen. I mean, I've crashed. I remember we were doing Friday Night Fight Club, and we had about 30 people, or 27 to 30 people, like there at the climb itself, and every 5 minutes somebody was crashing out of the game. So, yeah.
So moving on to KZ. How do you pronounce KZ? Sizor's question: how do you think the guild system? There's a lot of questions about guilds. How do you think the guild system in Landmark will affect the guild system in EverQuest Next? This is interesting considering the relationship between the two games. I mean, I'm wondering, do we think our feedback on these systems are going to be as important?
My one-word answer is maybe, and I'll explain it. It might or might not affect the way they do the guild system in Landmark or in EverQuest Next, depending on whether or not they like what they've done with Landmark and they decide that's what makes sense for the way players should be organizing themselves in EverQuest Next. I would imagine guild communication and many other things like that will also be coordinated through the row song. Poro, did you have anything on the subject?
I feel like when I try to think about these things, it doesn't go anywhere because we don't entirely know what kind of reasons we would want to come together in a guild in each game, really. I
totally agree with that. That's actually the root cause of my just confusing points, because it's so hard to make good decisions or make good analysis right now with the information that we have. But to say something that we do know, or actually, I guess I wanted to ask all of you guys really quickly: are we all on the same page that yes, they took EverQuest out of the EverQuest title out of EverQuest Next Landmark, but are we still on the same page of saying that a lot of the functionality that we see inside of Landmark is geared towards providing understanding and coding for EverQuest Next?
Hell yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So then with that being said, straight up, I mean, there's going to be some similarities because they're literally making this game to help make the other game. But, that's as far as, I think the general UI, like a lot of the general concepts, I think, are going to stay the same, but I think that they are going to be able to fine-tune it and sort of kind of direct it into whatever makes sense for a game like EverQuest.
I think that the broad answer there is yes, that there will be a correlation, but we have seen a lot of things already that are really geared towards improving the experience of Landmark specifically, regardless of whether they're considered to be long-term or they're just, man, we got to appease somebody real quick, so we're going to throw this in there. And right now with the guild system, we don't know which that is. Like, people have been... the guy that hates the implementation of guilds completely and won't even be a part of it, I said in March that not being able to have guilds and having bad chat and having that was, if you want this to be a game, and that was alpha, right? I said that this is a key feature to the game that should have been in there before. And then we get them in August. It could very well just be a stopgap measure. It could be, we're tired of saying guilds are coming. Oh, guilds are here. Phase 1 of guilds. But we have no idea what parts of this will carry forward other than you'll be able to join a guild.
But I feel like that's okay. It doesn't seem like you're wrong or like off path with what you're saying, but I also think that it can be reinforced by the fact that, I think combat's, a lot of combat is the same way. I mean, combat is so primitive and so simple, and it just seems like it's put there for the functionality purposes of testing out their coding, testing out how it could work, just for them to have a base to build off of, and eventually it'll make sense. And that's why, really, at the end of the day, all the conversation that we want to have right now about what Landmark is today, I think it should be turned into where we want to see Landmark tomorrow. That's me.
I think that's an excellent point. I mean, it's going to be a huge part of Landmark going forward. I think even beyond the release of EverQuest Next. Once EverQuest Next is done, released and everything, there's no reason that Landmark has to finish in terms of it might open up Landmark for them to be able to do different things that go beyond that kind of genre. I think we should start plowing through the questions. To give everyone a bit of time. We got a question from Sorol. It's pretty open ended. He wants to know: is it even likely that there will be any kind of competition in EverQuest Next?
Yes.
Like between players, between organizations.
I guess so. I mean,
market
absolutely.
Competition.
We have good and evil. We know that. That's like a core. That's like a core conflict in life, in real life. I mean, I can only imagine the kinds of competition that we'll see between those kinds of factions, or that kind of those kinds of players.
First to 40 classes unlocked. That's going to be a competition. There's going to be all sorts of stuff like that. Finding Easter eggs. That's competition. Poro, go ahead.
We know there's going to be achievements, so there might be like world first or things like that. But when we were talking to Dave at SOE Live, he has said this before, but he really reiterated the fact that he, not just in Landmark either, he wants people to be able to make a name for themselves and have a reputation and be really good at something and be recognized for that. So if you're really awesome, people should know that you're really awesome. And that's what competitions are about. It's about finding out who's the most awesome.
And to expand on that, I think that, to me anyway, because I agree with you, I want, in my mind, I want to be the most awesome, but I want to be the most awesome because I want to then share my awesomeness with everybody else and help them become awesome too. So
there's like a speech from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Get out of here.
I want to be awesome. That's such a good answer.
I want to be the most awesome, but I want to help you guys all be second most awesome.
Guys, look at me. I'm pretty awesome.
Just not quite as popular as me.
You guys can all be awesome too, but you'll always know that I'm one step more awesome than you are.
I think it's a noble goal and one that we should all strive towards. Zex Seydu, I hope, maybe, wants to know if we think Landmark has more content and features added, that the guild feature will make more sense as guild play styles emerge. That's an interesting thing. Do we think that there will be guild play styles emerging as more features are added?
Nah.
Boro?
That could happen. Why not, Reese?
I mean, there will be guild play styles, but I don't think that they have to be guild specific. There could just be a chat room for race runners or whatever, or puzzle builders or whatever. It doesn't have to be tied to a guild.
Do we think that could maybe become a function of guilds? Perhaps players will come together, form a guild to work on one particular project, and then disband afterwards. Like
an order, That'd be awesome. If something's happening inside of Landmark and there's a specific event that only a group of people that you meet up with want to tackle, and you say fuck it, we're gonna be the Knights Templar, some best kind of example. I think that would be a really cool way to kind of use guilds in a new fashion, instead of making it something that's kind of your homies that you start, you just invite them. It's like this thing that comes out of camaraderie and comes out of events and tackling certain things. I think that'd be really interesting.
What I was actually thinking about was if your guild has a common goal, the playstyle would be more about how you go about accomplishing it than even necessarily what the goal is. So I don't even know if I'm on the same page here.
Well, I think there's definitely elements of both in that. I mean, I've been in different guilds that had pretty much the same goal that definitely went about it in different ways. I think guilds definitely have personalities.
I could see guilds having an exclusivity thing, like we're going to be the ones who find all the templates that you can only find in the world off of mobs and from the treasure chests, or we're going to be the only guild that everybody has the belt of the Zephyr.
Then wouldn't you be like a cartel?
Yeah, I guess
You
so.
made your thing like having access to one particular thing and having that specialization. So
Could
like if you
happen.
want this, you have to come to us.
I like the idea of players coming together because they have a common goal. I mean, I hope that becomes a theme of Landmark as we go on.
Definitely for what's next.
Still on the topic of guilds as well, do we think guilds will affect the player studio sales? Oh, conspiracies abound.
No, I
Do
don't.
we think
I, I don't. I.
pyramid schemes, Sug? Pyramid schemes in Landmark? Everyone buy this one person's player studio item and we'll all be rich.
It's real money. You know, people are gonna buy what they want. If your exposure might be better if you know somebody, but that's just marketing, and there's going to be a lot of marketing. I don't care how that happens, but I don't have personally. I don't have a penny for buying something somebody else built right now. Yeah, I build stuff. I'm cool with that. But there are going to be a lot of people that do. And how at marketing what they do, and they use their guild for marketing that. And more power to them. Great. I don't. That's how sales works. You make connections with people. You get your name out there. You expose people to your product. If people are good at it, they're good at it, and guilds are going to be a tool.
And I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be the case. That's actually how it works in real life. I mean, with every other kind of business. So why shouldn't it be like that in the game business?
I think your guild might become part of your brand, which would be interesting. Like maybe that guild becomes really well known for building cool stuff, and then if people know that you're in that guild, they're gonna be more likely to follow you on Player Studio.
Yeah,
LaForge is a great example.
Yeah, I was just about to say LaForge is getting there already, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at that guild as a group of builders unrivaled. That's my opinion, of course. But what they do puts me on my ass every time I see it, and for that, I want to, as somebody who has the ability to market people as a streamer, I want to support them and help show that LaForge what LaForge is doing, and then everybody who's along in that guild is going to get that same good publicity. So.
I think on that wonderfully positive note of inclusivity and spreading the love and sharing everything, that we're going to be saying our goodbyes. So we'll do it really quickly. Poro, do you want to say one final goodbye to all the beautiful people?
Yes. I love you all, and I just wanted to. I forgot this in the introduction. I'm actually making a game about Omid. So that's another reason to watch me, because it's going to have Omid, and it's going to be a game.
It's going to game with Omid. You can't say further. I think, Reese, would you like to say a few words to the lovely people?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I've got a lot of stuff that I do, a 45.5-hour streaming schedule, so definitely tune in, especially my early show and my late show on the weekdays. We do giveaways for at least 3 games every time, so check in with that if you like free games and checking out awesome stuff. And other than that, check me out for Combat Daily, Live Feature Rant, Castles and Crap Shack. If you like H1Z1 Dead Feature Rant, if you like developers, who's developing now on the weekend, starting up here pretty soon. And other than that, Poro, it has been awesome having you on. And I'm going to say real quick to everybody, I had a great time hanging out with Poro Sorcerer at SOE Live. She's totally awesome. Moving it on.
So there's one busy man. Gio, I know you're busy as well. What are you up to at the moment?
Right now, I am contemplating falling asleep forever because I drank way too much whiskey last night. But seriously, yeah, I want to say thank you guys all for listening to my ramblings today, and I apologize for my less than entertaining or less than critical, comments. But ultimately, we're having fun. Landmark, trying to do the best we can inside of it and make the most out of it by creating our own content and always pushing forward. So the live stream that you can find us at Visionary Gaming, and we're going to be doing Friday Night Fight Club tonight at 8 p.m. per usual. We're going to be doing I believe, the loot card from SOE. We're going to be doing that for a giveaway number for whoever wins, and then the second place and third place also get a prize. And it should be interesting to watch me shoutcast that. So I might have to go get some more whiskey. That's what I'm realizing. Anyway,
Well,
yeah.
Thank you ever so much for joining us in your fragile state, sir. Always a pleasure. And hello, I'm Locke. You can find me on Twitter at Lock6Time. I do various things. I don't really know. It's all up in the air at the moment. Since this is Sarg's channel, I'll leave it to him to have the last word and close us out. So, sir, if you would take it away.
Thanks everybody for coming. I think we've had a really good discussion. Thanks to all of the rest of the team, Velix and Phantom X for hanging out in chat, pulling the questions out, just being the great people that they are. Thanks to our regulars, Neuro, Locke, and Geo, and Poro, our wonderful guest. The show next week will be where? Neurotoxin?
I believe it will be over on my channel this coming week here.
It'll be on Legendary Neurotoxin's channel. So next week, we'll be hosting it here. Thank you all for stopping in here, visiting the colony for our week as the official host of TheoryForge. But every week, if you stop in the chat here, there will be it will be hosted on this channel as well as others. And if you'd like to hang out with me again sometime, maybe, come on, please. We play a variety of games, including Landmark sometimes. Tomorrow night at 11 p.m. I had been doing long streams on Friday, but I really want to just focus on this on Fridays now. I know that right after this, if people are interested on twitch.tv/VizGaming, there is a Landmark Friday Night Fight Club event. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's at 8 p.m.
And Neuro, you usually do something after this as well. Is it your Who's Gaming Now?
Yep, I ate dinner and then I get going with Who's Gaming Now. Had some fun ones earlier today, so if you like racing games, maybe check some of those out. Well, racing combat games and gravity platform puzzle weirdness.
Did you get Road Redemption?
Yes.
Oh, I need to check that out. Okay. But, yep, so that's what's going on tonight. We will be switching to hosting Viz Gaming immediately following the show. So head over to his channel for that. And thank you all very much for coming. I hope to see you tomorrow night around 11 p.m. Eastern.
So, should we mention the card?